With an annual turnover of £112 billion and by far the most visited website in the entire world, Google is seen by many to be the dream place to work. But how do you get an internship at the world's largest and most successful tech company? Find out in this video. I'm Adam from TapIn, and today we're going to be talking about how to land an internship at Google. Now, for this video, we've spoken to current Google interns and graduates who've given us their advice to help you with everything you need to know to secure that elusive place at Google. Before we get started, for those of you that are new to the channel, make sure that you subscribe to TapIn and hit that notification bell too. That way, when we make new videos like these, you're going to get notified. Quick question for you. Have you applied to Google or any other tech companies? If you have, leave a comment down below and let us know where you applied and what you found difficult. So we've timestamped every section of this video, as if you'd like to skip to a particular section, check out the description box below. So if you're applying to Google or any other tech companies, let us know in the comments below. Google was founded by Larry Page and Sergey Brin in 1998. Considering it's the most visited website in the world with 5.6 billion searches per day, that's insane. The main route into Google for students is through their summer internship program. Now, for several roles as well, including software engineering, site reliability, business, student research, collaboration, and user experience. They do have a range of graduate jobs as well, which range from sales management and strategy operations to software engineering, to name a few. But these are ever changing. The application process for these roles is the same as for the internship. So even if you're applying to a current Google grad job, keep watching as we're going to go through the application process, which, to briefly summarize, is a CV. Probably a cover letter, a transcript, and then a range of interviews. Before we dive straight in, you might be wondering what to expect from working at Google. How much of the crazy, quirky setting of the film The Internship is accurate? Well, according to previous employees, it's pretty close to the real-life experience. As well as the free food and an on-site gym, Google also have office rest spaces for when you need to recharge your batteries during the day, Google-specific events with celebrities, which have previously included Lady Gaga and Ryan Reynolds, and an on-site games room with a climbing wall and a swimming pool, amongst other things, along with the fact that you're going to be working with the latest technology and infrastructure. That sounds pretty good, right? Fun fact, Google also offers a range of scholarships and grants, including travel conference scholarships, grants for those with disabilities, and scholarships for underrepresented communities. So if you want to apply, but are not sure that you can, definitely look at these. Of course, the required skills will vary depending on what internship you apply to, but there are no academic grade necessities for any of the roles, which is a plus. For the business internship, you need to be at uni in your penultimate year, though this can be either, say, your bachelor's or even your master's, and their degree specification is unspecified, meaning that you can apply from any degree discipline. And for the position of software engineering and site reliability, you also need to be at uni studying a computer science related degree. You also need this degree for the student research collaboration role, however you must be studying either a master's or a PhD. So all these roles also require you to have previous coding experience in languages such as Java and Python. Lastly, for the user experience role, you need to be pursuing a PhD or a master's in a field related to extensive user research. Although they're pretty broad as to what this may include, listing cognitive psychology, information science, and statistics are some of the degree-related areas they recruit from. This is one of the more creative roles at Google, so if you have experience or ambitions of going into product design, it's the one for you. Now that's out of the way, let's get down to the nitty-gritty of the application, starting with your CV. Let's get started with a few important basics for your CV overall, and then we'll walk you through everything that you need to know for each section of the resume. To start, make sure the format is simple and consistent in design, font, sizing, and spacing throughout so that the person reviewing your resume can easily scan and find the information quickly. Black ink is always a safe bet, but other font colors are okay as long as they're readable. And Google prefer your CV in the PDF format. Include your contact information and email at the top. Now, you don't have to include objective statements, but if you do, make sure it's relevant to the job that you've applied for. You also don't need to include references. Try to keep your resume to 1 page for business and internship roles and no longer than 2 pages for engineering roles. Really focus on including what's relevant for the specific role that you're applying for. Use bullet points with consistent formatting and structure throughout the CV, rather than long paragraphs. And perhaps the most important tip we have overall is to always check for typos. Now, a few additional basics for technical and engineering candidates. List your programming languages at the top of your resume and make sure that you are comfortable interviewing in them. It's also critical that you list your GitHub profile or other prominent open source work that shows Google that you are contributing to the open source community, passionate about the work that you're doing, and looking to improve your skills. For all CVs, it's important to use clearly delineated sections. Think about what a recruiter needs to know about you and your experience, and then organize them accordingly. If you're a student or a recent grad, education should always be listed first. If you're an experienced industry professional, then this section can be moved lower on the page. Experience should take up the bulk of your CV. If you have multiple distinct categories of experience, consider creating subsections for each. If you're a technical or engineering candidate, include personal class projects next. We then recommend including a leadership and awards section. You can use an optional final section to tell them a little bit about yourself. Now let's walk through our advice and tips for each section. First up is education. Generally, the more recently you attended university, the more detail you should include here. So pay close attention if you're currently a student. Include all post-secondary institutions you've attended and all the degrees and majors with your most recent education first. Definitely include your actual graduation date if you've graduated, or the anticipated date if you're still enrolled, and always in the month-year format rather than season year. For example, May 2020 instead of spring 2020. If you're a current student or recent grad, include your degree average, but don't be scared by this. Although your degree classification is a factor, Google look at the whole package and understand that every university and student is different. Experience is next on the list, and it can come in many different forms beyond jobs and internships. So if you're a student, be sure to include impact from things like academic research, teaching or tutoring experience, personal projects, and class projects as well. If you're applying for technical or engineering roles, be sure to include any experience with open source, mobile apps, web development, hackathons, and coding competitions. Think through all of your relevant experience for the role and then use these tips to showcase them on your CV. You'll want to list everything in reverse chronological order, with your most recent experience first. Include your employer, position, and dates employed for all jobs and internships in the month-year format. Keep your bullet point descriptions concise and clear, and make the most of your space by streamlining bullet points that spell over onto the next line by only 1 or 2 words. And for each bullet, use action words like created, designed, debugged, negotiated, developed, managed, and so on and so forth, so the person reading your resume can easily and quickly understand your skills and experience. A big tip here is to read the job description and look at the language it uses. Writing a CV for a specific job description takes a little bit of effort, but it can really help your application stand out. You can even bold and italicize keywords related to the job description to highlight your relevant skills and experience. It's important to focus on the results and impact of your work, so list metrics and examples concisely rather than writing long descriptions. Use data and comparisons or averages to provide context. Google value data, and they want to see you know how to apply it when speaking to your accomplishments. If you're applying for technical engineering roles, be sure to include the programming language that you use in bold for each project you include. Top tip, avoid using words like honest, proactive, and think outside the box. These are really overused, so try and sell yourself better than this. Use an online thesaurus if you're struggling. Google want to hire well-rounded individuals, demonstrated by them inviting people from different departments on their interview panel. More on that later. So don't be afraid to talk about previous jobs like these, as it fits their criteria. Now, some roles require a cover letter as well as a CV, but not all of them, so double check when you apply. If you need to write one, don't stress, as we're going to go through the format. In your opening paragraph, briefly explain who you are, why you're writing, and what role you're applying for. Go into detail, although keep in mind you'll need to keep this to one side. Your second paragraph is for elaborating on the most relevant work experience and your highest achievements detailed in your CV. Maybe you've shadowed someone who you think Google would find interesting, or you have loads of ideas on websites or app development. Discuss them more here, talking about your ideas for the role, the skills you would bring to it specifically, and the positive impact that you would have on the Google team generally. Top tip, conscientiousness and leadership qualities are two key attributes that Google say they are looking for. So try and demonstrate these with specific examples in your cover letter as much as possible. In your third paragraph, you need to have done prior research to show why you want to work for Google specifically, not just in the tech industry. Constantly think, why Google? What makes them different from the other big 4 tech companies as a place I want to work at? And communicate your answers here. Maybe it's their overarching brand ideas, from the Pixel phone to their free web programs like Slides and Docs, which has sparked your interest and ideas? Or an advertising campaign they ran which stuck with you? Tell Google why you want to work for them. It shows your enthusiasm and commitment from the outset, which of course is great. Top tip, Google pride themselves on doing their bit for their community. So if you've done some volunteering, mention it. You could say why ethical work is really important to you. So that's another reason why you want to work for Google, as it's built into their company ethos. Your final paragraph is a call to action. Thank them for reading and let them know your availability for an interview. Close with a "I look forward to hearing from you," followed by "yours sincerely." The last part of your application form is your academic transcript. This is basically a record of your uni grades. Now, whilst Google say that they don't mind if you send an unofficial one, it's fairly easy to get a hold of your official one, and it looks more professional and it gives you a higher chance. Either email your uni careers department or the admin office in your department and request an academic transcript of your module grades so far. This is also going to prove that you go to the uni that you've listed. If your application is successful, the next round will be an interview, likely over the phone or on video via Google Hangouts, before a face-to-face conversation. Don't worry if this sounds daunting or if you have limited interview experience. We are going to go through our best advice to help you prepare, and then how to nail each type of interview. Finally, and most importantly, do your research. Look into Google values, understand their culture, people, how the business model has changed over time, and how they've turned into a multi-billion-dollar tech company. Jot down some notes of particular examples which stand out to you. Think about your favorite aspect of Google, whether it's their office, their extra programs, or products like their Chromebooks, and look into how these came about. We spoke to Charles, a current business intern at Google's London office, and his advice was, before your interview, know about Google front to back, understand the culture and the products they sell, and make sure you attend as many Google events as possible, either Compass or at their office, and get your name around. This will help you learn more about the culture and meet more Googlers. Top tip, if you're applying for a technical role, Google recommend that you get used to coding on a whiteboard, on Google Docs, and over the phone, so practice this as much as you can. Secondly, reread your cover letter and CV so you know it in and out. This means you can answer any questions on your past experience without any hesitation. Lastly, prepare some questions. The interviewer will always close the conversation with asking you if you have any questions. So have some mentally ready, and not just those with a yes or no answer. For example, you could ask your interviewer how they got to where they are today, and what advice they have to someone just starting out. Or maybe you want to know what they would change about the company if they could, or what Google will look like to them in the next 5 years. If your interview is over the phone, our main piece of advice is try not to panic, because you can't see the person interviewing you. Think out loud as much as you can. By vocalizing your thought process, you give the interviewer as much insight as possible into how your mind works and how you answer questions and tackle problems. You also minimize any awkward ums or uhs down the phone. It's a win-win. If your interview is via video over Hangouts, we recommend treating this as much like an in-person interview as possible. So wear something that you feel comfortable in, but that's also smart. Get enough sleep the night before, and drink some water or do some deep breaths beforehand. Make sure your internet connection is strong and you're in an environment which is quiet and distraction-free. And then you're good to go. For your in-person interview, the most important thing to remember is that an interview is ultimately a conversation. Your Google interviewer wants to get to know you. They aren't looking to trip you up or to catch you out. Fun fact, according to an ex-senior vice president of operations at Google, they ask a combination of situational and behavioral interview questions. An example of a situational question Google have asked before is, what would you do if the server went down 5 minutes before a big presentation? And an example behavioral question they've asked is, tell me about a time when you've solved a difficult problem. If you want to get ahead, role-play mock interviews with your peers, family or friends, and really focus on questions like these. Google offer a range of fixed summer internships and ever-changing grad jobs in areas from software engineering to user experience. The application process for both of these routes consists of a CV, a cover letter, academic transcript, and a number of interviews in different formats. So guys, this leads us up to the end of this video on how to be successful in your application to Google. We really hope you found it useful. Make sure you check the link to our website in the description below. We've written a detailed step-by-step guide on how to secure an internship with Google, and whilst you're in there, consider signing up and joining the TapIn community. Thank you guys for watching, and we'd like to say a massive thank you to Charles and Simi, who are current Google employees, who supported us in creating this video. If you found this video on how to get into Google useful, hit like, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Share the video and help us on our mission to prepare 100 million young people from the world of work. We do weekly videos preparing you for internships and grad jobs, and have loads more videos on how to get internships and grad jobs in tech. Click here to check those out. If you have any questions, video ideas, or anything at all, let us know in the comments. We usually respond to all the comments we get on our videos. I've been Adam from the TapIn community, and I'll catch you next time.